Deltarune Chapter 2 certainly was something. First, well, let me just say, I did not get the luxury of playing the game. I had to watch it on YouTube because I'm broke. And if I had waited any longer, I would have just got it spoiled for me. Oh, by the way, when I say it broke, I mean I can't buy a PC, not I can't buy the game. The game is free. There's so much to talk about, and I guess I'll just start with my overall thoughts on the chapter as a whole. I think it's pretty equal to chapter 1 in most aspects. I feel like a lot of times it get to a point where it's like you can't really go back. You can't just re-explore. You have to take the shortcuts at the very end of the game, and a lot of stuff changes. So it feels really fast-paced. Like you do not have any time to react until the breakpoints. But I do like that they added more overworld combat, or dodging, or whatever you would call that. But 100%, it is funnier. The humor was blown out of the water. Even though the humor in the game is easily dumber than anything else in previous Deltarune or Undertale stuff, it was so much better. It's like, the Queen felt like a character that I or any other random average internet user could have made. And that's what makes it feel so amazing. It's because it feels like something stupid that we would make. The ending is the story is like, I don't even know what the heck is going on anymore. It's a lot to take in. So it started off like playing off the ending of chapter 1 as just a joke. It was just Chris get pie. That's it. And that Chris was removing the soul from them, so you couldn't stop them from eating the pie. And then the same kind of thing happens. Like, a lot of people overlooked at the end of chapter 2. Toriel says that there is some pie batter or some pie ingredient in the car, and then Chris jumps out the window and goes in the car. But it's because of the other line about, like, the wheels were slashed, is why people overlook it. The wheels getting slashed is interesting, because I don't know why that would be a thing. What purpose does that serve? It's not like people can't walk. The whole ending and everything in chapter 2 was just a mouthful. A brainful. It's chaos. It's total nonsense. Not nonsense as it's stupid nonsense. Well, actually it is. So much dumb stuff happens. And that's probably the stuff that's been in our mind the most. Potassium. But, of course, underneath all the nonsense humor, there is so much lore stuff to talk about. So, around the end, it's like, I don't know where to start. I guess we'll just start at the ending. Where first what happens is it goes to wash his hands. Their hands. It's not a big deal if you misgender a character one time. Maybe 5. They go to wash their hands, and I'd assume the reason they pick this opportunity is because while they're washing their hands, it's so loud they can't hear what's going on in there, so that they rip out their soul, put it in the cabinet, and jump out the window, slash the wheels, and presumably get the pie, because Toriel's then like, we can't actually make the pie tonight, excuses, bluffing stuff. Because the pie was also stolen. So they're still playing on that stupid joke about getting rid of the soul, which is you, so they can eat the pie without you stopping them. But then something else happens later. Susie and Chris fall asleep on the couch, and Chris gets up. And Chris pulls out the knife again, does some weird stuff like screws up the TV, opens the door, not closes. So the slashing the wheels thing makes it feel like they were trying to keep them there. They couldn't drive away, but they can still run away. But why would he open the door then? It's like, that part just, I don't get it. And then they smash their knife into the ground and create a new dark fountain, just like the night does. And now everyone's immediate assumption, oh, Chris is the knight. Oh! Well, maybe not. We'll see. Because remember what the Queen said literally right before about determination? Also, that's the first mention of determination in the entirety of Deltarune, as far as I'm aware. But they could say anyone who was determined enough could make a fountain. Also, please tell me this has been recording. It is, okay. Anyone who was determined enough could make a fountain. So, that right there says that Chris doesn't have to be the knight to make a fountain. And they even say that every other person has determination, not just Chris. So it's not a human thing. Well, it is in Undertale, but in Deltarune, it's not necessarily a human thing, but it's a player thing, which makes a lot of sense. Only the player has the determination to continue to morph things. But then again, Chris does it without the player. So it's like kind of like loopholes and loopholes, loopholes within loopholes. It's crazy. This game is nuts. Toby Fox is a madman when it comes to story. I don't know how anyone would have managed to do this kind of stuff. There is a part where there's like a screen and it's like the knight is creating a fountain, or someone is creating a fountain, but there's so much smoke that you can't see who it is. Let's just get to the point. Why Chris may or may not be the knight. If anyone can make a fountain, then there's nothing saying, as long as they're determined enough, there's nothing that says that Chris couldn't just make a fountain by his own will. Birdley was gonna do it for Pete's sake, and Birdley doesn't even know a thing about fountains up until that point. I think that this ending was somewhat influenced by Susie, because they say when you're sealing the fountain that maybe the knight making a fountain isn't such a bad thing because cool stuff happens. So we can't really just completely 100% blame Chris for this. Susie could have had influence on this and may not even see it as a bad thing. It's just bad because it's creepy. It's made to look unsettling. A creepy child with hair covering their face with red eyes, planting a knife into the ground, covering their home in darkness. It's just natural to assume that it's something bad. But Susie doesn't seem to think that. Or at least halfway. There's just so much stuff to talk about. Let's see, what next? Right. So, but the real thing that drives me to believe that Chris is still the knight is, again, Queen's dialogue. She shows the knight's hand drifting forward, like what Jevil said. But obviously not directly, it's just a hologram of it. But it doesn't look like a Gaster hand, so if knight is the if Gaster is the knight, like most people say, then the hand that was shown should be Gaster-like, but it wasn't. It was a very human-looking hand. And then the sword that they stab into the ground that it says looks just like Chris's knife. Oh yeah, that was something I forgot to say at the beginning. One thing that is slightly infuriating to me is Chris's knife just changing designs. So in the end of Deltarune Chapter 1, it was more of a dagger-looking small sword. And that kind of knife is actually called a kris. Funny. But then in chapter 2, it just looks like the boring kitchen knife that Kara slash Frisk slash whoever you want to say uses it in Undertale. The one that is overused, if you ask me. And I think it was so much cooler that Kris had his own interesting looking, more unique dagger knife called a kris. And then when it shows the knife going into the ground when the queen is talking, it feels like the design of it is like a mix between the kitchen knife and the kris. Sorry if that sounds stupid, but yeah, the kris knife. So that just makes it even more annoying. Okay, that out of the way. That's the thing that really says that it's kris. But my theory, back in the whatever video that was, in the Everyman video, was that the Everyman was going to be the knight, or at least it was an idea. Not, like, even in that video I wasn't sure because it just seems so dumb, a random character with almost nothing to him being the most important antagonist or whatever. And the truth is, the knight isn't necessarily the most important antagonist. Now we've got the titans we have to worry about, whatever they are going to do and whatever they are. So the knight isn't even the real villain. He's just a puppet. Oh, by the way, the knight is confirmed a male, and that's a reason why I would say Kris isn't necessarily the knight, is Toby Fox would not confirm Kris's gender. Absolutely not. Fandom would throw a hissy fit, and Toby Fox just doesn't seem to want that. Toby Fox likes to keep the main character's genders mysteries, so anyone can have whatever interpretation and play out whatever stupid fan fiction they want. So the knight being confirmed male kind of drives away from Kris being the knight. So you're probably wondering, so if Everyman is the knight and Kris is also the knight, what the frick? Yes, that's what you're probably thinking right now. And also, so back what I was saying before I interrupted myself like an idiot, the knight isn't necessarily the most important villain. We are already getting all these big reveals, and it's only chapter 2. There's 7 chapters. We could be seeing the knight and defeating the knight in only chapter 3 or 4. The titans are the real mystery now, because we have nothing to go off of them, other than they look terrifying. One really big, giant whatever with eyes on its body, and then the really slender weirdos that don't even look like to be connected to each other, that just float there with weird ears, or whatever. I might be remembering the design wrong. Now, the Titans could deserve their own video, but honestly, do we have anything to go off of? No, not really. And I don't think Kris wants to bring the Titans to the world, because this seems to be Kris's happy place, basically. It's the place where he's the most happy and shows the most emotion. So I don't see why Kris would want to bring the Titans to the Dark World. It's weird. Also, Kris's red eyes is not just an evil thing, that's just a Kris thing. Kris has red eyes for a split second when he's falling into chapter 2 for the first time, or just in general. The transition animation that is smooth as frick just has red eyes. So yeah, that's a thing. So if the Everyman is the knight, it's just what the frick is probably what you're thinking, if you haven't seen my theory on it already. First of all, let me tell you, the Everyman rabbit hole goes so much deeper than I ever could have imagined, and I thought I covered everything. Every man thing. That was stupid. Don't try to do puns, unless you're Sans. Okay. Found this article, or whatever it was, on the internet. Just search Everyman deltarune, and then it should be like the first thing to come up. and just read it. It never stops. There's so much crazy evidence, but I'm not going to talk about it here because that would just be taking his theory on my own. Though, that article did not appear when I researched Everyman for that video, so it might have appeared after the video and possibly been stolen from me. I mean, there are people that like to steal others' theories and take credit. Matt Pat, Hollow Knight theory. But I don't think that's true. I do not think that anyone would take an idea from me. Or even know I exist. Anyway. Yeah, the Everyman rabbit hole goes so much deeper, and I could make an entire follow-up video for it now. But for deltarune and that article was made before deltarune chapter 2, so a lot of things could change or be added. And might as well talk about this image that we've been staring at this whole time. Everyman makes another appearance, rarely in Queen's Attack, where it's like internet users shooting stupid comments. That's you guys. And randomly, the Everyman can be there right here. I mean, I think it's him because there's a duck that doesn't look like him. There he is. But he does not fire any comments like the others. Also, I don't know if they can appear in the stupid drama version of it, because that would require something really rare to happen, because it's probably a rare chance for this to happen, and I've only seen it in one video. And the drama attack only plays out one time, so you gotta get really lucky for that to happen, and I don't think anything will happen. Even if he's there, he probably would just stand there doing nothing, just like here. So yeah, there's that. Now, I thought to myself, wait a minute, what if I searched Everyman, not Undertale, and not Deltarune, just Everyman itself? Actually, that's a lie. I saw a picture first, and then searched it to verify. The Google definition of Everyman, or at least there's two of them. One, a run-of-the-mill but modest person. This was the top result. Just a generic blank state for a character to exist. And yeah, I guess so. That does kind of go like exactly what with Toby Fox said. Just a good guy that shows up on occasion. Because it's also claimed to be modest, like a good person. And you're probably wondering, how the frick is a run-of-the-mill good person the knight who is looking to be the main antagonist of the game? Jump down the Everyman rabbit hole if you want. I'm not saying it here. There's way too much stuff to talk about. But I will talk about the stuff that wasn't included. And the second definition was another blank state, just a stock character that exists in fiction as that plays the protagonist role, which pictures of the stock Everyman character actually do look just like the Everyman from Undertale and Deltarune. So, just in case there was confusion. Now, that does make sense with what we're looking at right here, just a random dude among a bunch of comments and fans. But they don't speak like the normal ones. But, sure, this one works with that. Or with the first definition. But do any of the others scream a normal, modest man? A amalgamate? A freaking Jevil attack? A back alleyway by a potential scientist with connections to Gaster? Yeah, I don't think so. This is the only one that says that. Now, going back to that thing, if the Everyman is the knight, and Chris is the knight, how does that make any sense? The stalk thing, remember? if Everyman represents a stock protagonist and Chris is the protagonist, then that would work in a really weird sense. You know? And that's just crazy. But then again, we don't even know if Toby Fox just named Everyman for no good reason, just as a name that he made up, or he actually knows the definitions. I mean, I couldn't imagine it being a coincidence that something called the Everyman from Undertale and something called the Everyman in stock filler, the story, whatever, looks almost exactly the same. But, like, it could be. But which definition did Toby Fox take? That's unknown. And this could explain, if we were going with the he's just a guy theory, that could explain why the dolls and the dummies look like Everyman. If they were just taking some random monster design, some generic monster design for all their merchandise, just stuff, that would make perfect sense to have the Everyman as those things. There is so much stuff that I could talk about, but just read the article for yourself, please. Now, I need a minute to breathe and think about what I'm supposed to say next. I think we're done talking about Everyman. I don't think there's anything else that's needed to be said about Everyman. Oh yeah. Something that was discovered also in that Everyman article that I didn't realize is the text from Sham about the night implies that the night has a sun. A sun. I thought the text read that it was talking about the king and the sun, obviously, as Lancer. But the thing says that it is the night. So either that's just a really weird grammar error, or the night has a sun, and in which it also would not make sense as Chris. It's like, Chris doesn't have a son. Chris is like 16 or something. I don't even know, actually. But Chris definitely does not have a son. But that does remind me of that one image. Ever since I saw that one image, I cannot stop thinking about it this way. Where it's an image of like Gaster coming out of the void slightly with his hand out and the little Everyman dude, bro. Just sitting there, looking up at him. And it's always, ever since that image, I've always got a father-son feeling from Everyman and Gaster. Also, let me just say the egg has returned. The egg has returned. There's a new egg. And going to Temmie actually tells you how many eggs you've collected so far, which is interesting. And also confirms that Temmie's egg is not just a random egg for the memes, it is also related. Now, these eggs could still just be literal Easter eggs, just for the sake of it. But I don't know, if there's one every chapter, I feel like collecting them all is going to be something similar like collecting all the shadow crystals. Which we need to talk about next. So yeah, the egg, the Everyman, the whatever. Oh yeah, now we gotta talk about the big shot himself, Spamton. This freaking character is got me so confused right now. Just from the very start, he's not just the secret boss of Deltarune, he's also a forceful, or unless you glitch the game, he's not just the secret boss, he's also an obligatory boss, but his super form is a secret boss, and he's a shopkeeper. Temporarily. So it's just tons of chaos. Oh yeah, that's one thing I forgot to mention. When Ralph is talking about the Titans, he says the world will fall into chaos, which would obviously be the chaos that Jevel's always talking about. is the destruction of the Dark World. I am running out of time on this video, so I really better hurry this up, but there's just so much to talk about Spamton. It's nonsense. It's completely ridiculous. He starts off as this random idiot spam guy, as his name implies, giving you free deals on whatever, spelling things improperly with the weirdest punctuation and grammar ever, words that just straight up are missing, and he's just this really bizarre boss, and then you beat him, and then that's it. And then things go crazy. And then, like, what even comes next? I don't know. But he's this big crazy secret, and he lives in the dumpster, or in the trash door, something. But let me just say that the door that he is behind is suspiciously similar to the Gaster door. The Gaster door, the gray one. Yeah. Honestly, I could make a whole nother video on Spamton, but I don't feel like it, because I feel like everyone else is gonna do it, so why should I have to do it? His dialogue goes completely crazy about this Mike guy, whoever that is. And for the longest time, it wasn't looking like he was going to connect to Gaster. Instead, he keeps talking about heaven and other weird stuff like that, and being controlled. And there's still so many more topics that we need to get to, so I just have to keep Spamton short. It's just crazy. Spamton is weird. And since he's going to be the new Jevil, and he even knows who Jevil is, according to his dialogue, and has Jevil's theme as his shop theme, everyone's going to be talking about him, so I feel like I can just leave that to the big boys and talk about the more obscure stuff. In the Spamton area is more intriguing to me than Spamton himself. It kind of looks like the ruins, but not really at all. I think that's more of a stretch. It's more brown than purple. And it's covered in vines. But there's two really weird Easter eggs that happen there for no good reason. First, there's these weird cords that attack you, similar to the control wires, but not at all. And if you just stand idle, the wire turns into a face. Which is funny, because I was the type of person that a long time ago would just see a face in everything, and the wire is definitely one of the things I saw the face in. And then there's just this really weird face that exists for no reason if you backtrack and then backtrack back to the backtracking. It just exists for no good reason. Now, there's also Spamton will appear in the secret genocide, quote-unquote genocide, Snowgrave route thing nonsense. And he exists to actually tell you the 4 left thing, which is weird. It's like... And then he straight up becomes the final boss, not optional, in that route. It's weird. Spamton is freaking weird. The weirdest part is that they bring back Mettaton Neo of all things. Now, I know this is just one big joke, not only at Toby himself, but also at the fans, like it's sucking about. With the power of our combined dreams, we bring that machine back because a lot of people wanted a Mettaton Neo fight instead of it to just die in one hit, like stupid. And then he also says, don't you know that that the power of Neo is known for its durability when it dies in one hit? So it's just a bunch of poking fun at itself, but just its existence is weird. It doesn't make sense that it's there. And if this is the ruins, which it probably isn't, but if it is, then that makes things even weirder. But in this world, in Deltarune, there is no Mettaton. Just a ghost, and Alphys and Mettaton probably don't even know each other. No one knows Mettaton, in fact. They say that multiple times. But the Mettaton Neo body is still there. How does that work? There is just so many questions and no answers in sight. And to top things off, at the end, a bunch of other Spamton-like guys, like, they would still be like Spamton because they are spam ads giving you stupid things, will show up at his place and talk about his backstory, and it is Gaster in the end. He was on the phone with a weirdo, but the phone was just making garbage noise, as it's called, and garbage noise is the new quote that shows up when you call the phone, which makes Gaster noise. Also, my dog is freaking out. Hold up. And finally, the weirdest thing of all, the return or implied return of Flowey of all things. The Deltarune Chapter 2 ending with Chris and the TV gets a face. The TV grows a face at the end, or a mouth, just the mouth. What the heck does that mean other than Flowey? But if this is a world where Azrael is alive and well, so Flowey shouldn't exist. But he clearly exists. Even back to Spamton, the strings that he's attached to when he wants to be free, but he's still being controlled, are vines that are like Flowey. That whole area has vines like Flowey. And the Asgore shop had that golden flower and then flowers that look like all the souls. What the heck? That is the biggest question of all. And conveniently, in this chapter, we're unable to enter Asgore's house or flower shop. Conveniently, it's blocked by flowers. Now, that could just say that there's a bunch of flowers in the way. But it was implied that Flowey could just grow flowers wherever he wanted in Undertale. We know Flowey is aware and was even in control at one point and is aware of the timelines and stuff. But how did he get to Deltarune? Because that's the only explanation, right? How else does Flowey exist? Unless Flowey from Undertale got to Deltarune somehow. How else could Flowey exist? There's also vines around the bunker. The bunker of all things. There's vines there. Which the bunker is probably what's been on everyone's mind. And the bunker actually got a new scene, meaning that people are aware of its existence and they're not just ignoring it. Characters, and not just our characters, but even other NPCs went to it to know it exists. So that is different than anything else Gaster related, where they just shrug it off or don't even react at all, like Jevil. It's like it didn't happen. Only us, the player, are seeing those Gaster Easter eggs. And maybe Chris. So yeah. But Chris is the one that told them about the rumor of the bunker. So that makes things even more confusing. But let me just say this. Even though we don't know specifically what's in the bunker, I'm just 100% guarantee or 100% something. I believe that bunker is the door to the final Dark World. Now that we know that Dark World doors can be wherever. Oh boy. There's still so much to say. The Snowgrave route. And how Chris isn't, we're all evil. The humans of Undertale are just the villains. The humans in the overworld that sealed away the monsters. They caused everything in Undertale. Frisk, evil abomination, us, the one encouraging and controlling their actions, who are also humans. Kara, destroying the whole world and possibly influencing Deltarune's world. And then Chris doing whatever the heck he's doing. I don't know what the heck is going on with Chris. But just the humans, both in-game and out-game, are the villains. That's just the truth. Which, there's not even any time left on this video to discuss. It's like... And then about Rouse having this sinister undertone with how he's been hiding so many things to us and just letting us find out the hard way. Something is just not right. But luckily, I don't think we're gonna need to wait another 3 or 4, however many years. Because the biggest issue with Deltarune Chapter 2 was the fact that they had to reprogram all the stuff. They added a ton of new features like the challenge system, and then the recruiting system, and then the saving, and then the storage. And they had to add new party members. Unless they're going to rework that again, I don't think we're going to need to wait as long for Chapter 2. So, keep that in mind. Or for Chapter 3. Keep that in mind so you don't freak out. There's still so much more stuff I could talk about, but there's no room left, and I just honestly don't want to. This could go on for years and years, but please, if you're interested, watch or read that Everyman article. And like and subscribe. YouTuber stuff.